The second Stoic lesson is even more uncomfortable. The more you try to change people, the more they resist. Think about your own life. How many times has someone tried to force you to change? Maybe your parents, maybe a spouse, maybe a friend. Even if they were right, you probably felt resistance. Human beings naturally protect their freedom. The moment people feel controlled, they begin defending their current identity, even when that identity is harming them. This is why constant advice rarely works. You tell someone to stop drinking, they drink more. You tell someone to leave a toxic relationship, they stay longer. You tell someone to become disciplined, they avoid you. The ancient Stoics understood something modern psychology later confirmed. People change when they experience internal motivation, not external pressure. Marcus Aurelius never wrote about controlling others. He wrote endlessly about controlling himself because he understood a timeless truth. Your example is more powerful than your words. Imagine two fathers. The first constantly lectures his son about discipline while living a chaotic life himself. He sleeps late, complains constantly, loses his temper, avoids responsibility. The second father says very little, yet every morning he wakes up early, keeps his promises, treats people with respect, faces hardship with courage. Which father you think leaves the deeper impact? Character teaches louder than advice. Your life is always speaking. People may ignore your words, but they cannot ignore your example. This is why Stoicism places enormous importance on personal virtue. Become calm, become disciplined, become resilient, become wise, and allow others to witness the transformation. Some will be inspired, some will not, but their response is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is your own character. There is another hidden danger in trying to fix everyone. Eventually you begin neglecting yourself. You become so focused on solving other people's problems that your own life quietly starts collapsing. You postpone your dreams, ignore your health, neglect your marriage, abandon your ambitions. You tell yourself you will focus on yourself later. Later becomes years. Years become decades. One day you wake up emotionally exhausted, wondering where your life went. This happens far more often than people realize. Many caregivers, rescuers, and people-pleasers slowly disappear inside the needs of others. They lose their identity. Their happiness becomes dependent on whether other people are improving. And because human beings are imperfect, they remain trapped in endless disappointment. Seneca warned that attaching your peace to things outside your control guarantees suffering. Nothing is more outside your control than another person's choices. If your peace depends on someone else changing, you have surrendered your freedom. The Stoics believed freedom begins when we stop demanding that reality obey our wishes. Perhaps this sounds harsh. Maybe you're thinking, so should I stop caring about people? Absolutely not. Stoicism does not teach indifference. It teaches healthy detachment. Support people, love people, guide people, encourage people, but do not carry responsibilities that belong to them. There is a profound difference. Imagine standing beside someone who is climbing a mountain. You can encourage them, offer advice, provide support, but you cannot climb the mountain for them. The moment you attempt to carry them up the mountain, both of you fall. Many relationships fail because one person tries to live for two people. Eventually, resentment appears. The helper feels unappreciated. The other person feels controlled. Both suffer. Healthy relationships require personal responsibility from both sides. Without responsibility, there can be no growth. There is an old story about a farmer whose son repeatedly ignored warnings about dangerous behavior. Neighbors urged the farmer to constantly rescue the young man. Instead, the farmer offered guidance, but allowed his son to experience the consequences of his decisions. The son lost money, faced hardship, experienced failure. Years later, the son admitted that those painful experiences taught him more than any lecture ever could. Pain often becomes life's greatest teacher, and when we constantly rescue people, we sometimes steal those lessons from them. This leads us to the third Stoic lesson. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life. This truth hurts, because we desperately want to believe love can save every relationship. But wisdom teaches otherwise. Some people repeatedly choose chaos, some repeatedly betray trust, some reject every opportunity for growth, some drain your energy while refusing accountability. You cannot build a peaceful life while surrounding yourself with people committed to dysfunction. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning that he would encounter selfish, arrogant, and unreasonable people. But he never suggested sacrificing your entire life trying to reform them. Sometimes the wisest decision is distance. Distance is not hatred. Distance is not revenge. Distance is self-respect. You can love people and still refuse to let them destroy your peace. You can wish someone well while refusing to participate in their self-destruction. Many people remain trapped in painful relationships because they confuse love with obligation. They believe leaving means failure. They believe boundaries are selfish. They believe enduring endless suffering is noble. Stoicism rejects this idea. Self-respect is not selfish. Boundaries are not cruelty. Protecting your peace is not abandonment. It is wisdom. Consider the transformation of James. For years, James tried saving everyone around him. Friends called him only when they needed money. Family members relied on him for every crisis. Co-workers dumped responsibilities onto him. He said yes to everyone. Privately, he felt exhausted, angry, and invisible. Eventually, burnout forced him to reevaluate his life. He began studying Stoicism. Slowly, he started setting boundaries. He stopped solving problems that were not his responsibility. He stopped rescuing people from consequences. He focused on his health, career, and inner peace. Something surprising happened. Some relationships disappeared, but the relationships that remained became stronger, healthier, and more respectful. For the first time in years, James felt free. Many viewers watching this right now need to hear something. You are not responsible for saving everyone. You are not responsible for healing everyone. You are not responsible for carrying everyone's pain. You are responsible for living honorably, courageously, and wisely. That is enough. In fact, it is more than enough. Because when you master yourself, you become a living example of what is possible. And sometimes that example changes people more profoundly than years of advice ever could. Remember this: people do not transform because we force them. They transform when they become ready. Until then, your task remains simple: love without attachment, help without control, guide without expectation, and protect your inner peace at all costs. Because the greatest gift you can offer this world is not a perfectly fixed version of everyone around you. It is the strongest, wisest, and most peaceful version of yourself. If this message spoke to you, remember to subscribe, because your journey towards self-mastery is only beginning. And ask yourself this question: who in your life are you still trying to save at the cost of saving yourself? There is another reason why trying to fix everyone around you becomes so dangerous. It slowly turns into an addiction. At first, it feels noble. You help because you care. You listen because you love. You sacrifice because you want the best for someone. But over time, something subtle happens. Your identity becomes attached to being the rescuer. You begin measuring your worth by how needed you are. You feel valuable only when solving someone's crisis. Silence becomes uncomfortable. Peace feels unfamiliar. You unconsciously seek people who need saving because helping them gives your life meaning. This is where many strong, compassionate people become trapped. Because if your identity depends on rescuing others, you will often attract those who constantly need rescuing. And those relationships rarely become healthy. Instead, they become cycles. One person gives, the other takes. One person sacrifices, the other avoids responsibility. One person carries the emotional weight, the other grows dependent. Eventually, exhaustion arrives. The Stoics would call this attachment. Attachment is dangerous because it places your emotional stability in someone else's hands. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that every person possesses their own reason, their own choices, and their own path. Your path belongs to you. Their path belongs to them. Confusing the two creates suffering. Think about how many sleepless nights people lose worrying about decisions they cannot control. A parent worrying about an adult child who refuses advice. A spouse obsessing over changing their partner. A friend constantly replaying conversations, wondering what else they could say. An entrepreneur trying to motivate employees who simply do not care. All this mental energy, all this emotional pain. Yet nothing changes. Why? Because energy invested in controlling others is energy stolen from your own growth. Imagine if every hour spent worrying about other people's choices had instead been invested in your health, your purpose, your discipline, your dreams. How different would your life look today? This question is uncomfortable, but Stoicism is not about comfort. It is about truth, and the truth is that many people neglect themselves while obsessing over everyone else. They postpone their own healing, delay their own goals, ignore their own potential. Years pass, then regret arrives. Seneca warned that life is long enough if used wisely. The tragedy is not that life is short. The tragedy is wasting life on things outside our control, and few things consume more life than trying to change unwilling people. There is a powerful story from the life of Epictetus. Before becoming one of history's greatest Stoic teachers, he lived as a slave. Despite harsh circumstances, he discovered something remarkable. Even though his body belonged to another man, his mind remained free. His master could not control his character, could not control his judgments, could not control his inner world. From this experience, Epictetus developed one of Stoicism's most important principles. Some things are up to us, some things are not. Our thoughts, our actions, our attitudes, these belong to us. Other people's choices, other people's values, other people's behavior, these do not. The moment you truly understand this, your life changes forever, because you stop fighting unwinnable battles. You stop arguing with reality. You stop carrying burdens that were never yours. Instead, you focus your energy where it creates real transformation inside yourself, and this creates a strange paradox. The less desperately you try to change people, the more influence you often gain. Why? Because people resist pressure but respond to authenticity. When you become calm, others notice. When you become disciplined, others become curious. When you become emotionally strong, others become inspired. Not because you demanded change, because you embodied it. This is leadership in its highest form, leading through example. Many viewers are probably thinking about someone right now, someone they love deeply, someone they desperately wish would change. Maybe it is your spouse, maybe your child, maybe your parent, maybe a friend. Ask yourself honestly, have years of worrying, forcing, pleading, rescuing, or arguing produced the transformation you hoped for? If not, perhaps a different approach is needed. Perhaps the greatest act of love is stepping back, allowing people to confront themselves, allowing life to teach what your words could not, allowing consequences to become the teacher. This does not mean abandoning people. It means respecting their autonomy, respecting their ability to choose, respecting their right to learn through experience. Because growth imposed from the outside rarely lasts. Growth discovered internally changes lives forever. One of the hardest moments in life comes when we realize that love alone cannot save someone. Love cannot cure addiction. Love cannot create discipline. Love cannot force honesty. Love cannot manufacture ambition. Love can support. Love can encourage. Love can inspire. But every human being must ultimately save themselves. Accepting this truth feels painful at first, yet hidden inside this pain is freedom. Because when you stop trying to control everyone around you, something extraordinary happens. You finally have time to rebuild yourself. You begin exercising again. You rediscover forgotten dreams. You protect your peace. You strengthen your mind. You deepen your purpose. You become the person you were always meant to become. And ironically, this personal transformation often benefits others more than years of rescuing ever did. Because strong, peaceful, disciplined people elevate everyone around them naturally. Without force, without pressure, without control. So if you feel exhausted from carrying people, remember this. You were not born to carry everyone. You were born to cultivate wisdom. You were born to develop character. You were born to master yourself. That alone is a lifetime's work. And in the final part, you will discover the most powerful Stoic principle of all. The principle that will help you love people deeply while never losing yourself again. Now we arrive at the most powerful Stoic principle of all. Love people, but never lose yourself. This single idea has the power to transform every relationship in your life. Because many people spend years abandoning themselves in the name of love. They ignore their values to keep the peace. They tolerate disrespect because they fear loneliness. They sacrifice their dreams because someone else refuses to pursue their own. They remain in unhealthy relationships because they believe leaving would make them selfish. But Stoicism teaches something radically different. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot guide others if you are constantly broken. You cannot bring peace to others while living in chaos yourself. The ancient Stoics understood that self-mastery must come before service. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he never forgot that his greatest responsibility was governing himself. Because if he lost control of his own mind, nothing else could truly be controlled. The same principle applies to your life. Your first responsibility is not fixing everyone around you. Your first responsibility is becoming the strongest version of yourself. Ask yourself honestly, how often have you ignored your own needs because someone else's problems consumed your entire attention? How often have you delayed your goals waiting for another person to change? How often have you sacrificed your peace, hoping your sacrifice would eventually be appreciated? And how many times has that sacrifice left you feeling invisible, resentful, and exhausted? These are difficult questions. But difficult questions create powerful transformations. The truth is that many people never intended to become emotional caretakers. It happened gradually. A little compromise here, a little sacrifice there. One more chance, one more rescue, one more sleepless night, until eventually they wake up realizing they have spent years living someone else's life instead of their own. This realization can feel heartbreaking, but it can also become the beginning of freedom, because awareness changes everything. Once you recognize the pattern, you no longer have to repeat it. You can choose differently. You can choose boundaries. You can choose self-respect. You can choose peace. One of the greatest misunderstandings about boundaries is believing they push people away. Healthy boundaries do the opposite. They reveal who truly respects you. People who genuinely care about you will respect your limits. They may not always like them, but they will respect them. Those who become angry when you establish boundaries often benefited from your lack of them. This realization surprises many people, because when you stop rescuing everyone, some individuals will accuse you of changing. They will say you are selfish, cold, different, and in many ways they are right. You have changed. You are no longer abandoning yourself. You are no longer sacrificing your well-being to maintain unhealthy dynamics. You are no longer confusing guilt with love. and that change is necessary. Epictetus said that if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and selfish by others. Growth often disappoints people who benefited from your self-sacrifice. Do not let that stop you. Remember this: compassion without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Boundaries without compassion become isolation. Wisdom lies in balancing both. Offer support, offer kindness, offer understanding, but never surrender your identity. Never betray your values. Never abandon your peace, because inner peace is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Without peace, clear thinking becomes impossible. Without peace, emotional resilience weakens. Without peace, your relationships eventually suffer. The strongest people are not those who carry everyone. The strongest people know which burdens belong to them and which do not. Imagine standing beside a river watching someone struggle in the water. Your instinct may be to jump in immediately. But wise rescuers understand something important. If they enter recklessly, both people may drown. First, they secure themselves. Then they help. Life works the same way. Secure your own foundation. Strengthen your own mind. Protect your own peace. Only then can you truly serve others effectively. There is a final truth that every Stoic eventually accepts. You will not save everyone. Some people will reject your advice. Some people will repeat destructive patterns. Some people will walk away. Some people will choose chaos over growth. Accepting this reality is painful, yet resisting it is even more painful. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that human beings act according to what seems right to them. People make choices based on their awareness, their experiences, and their character. You cannot live those experiences for them. You cannot think their thoughts for them. You cannot walk their path for them, but you can walk your own path with courage. You can become an example of integrity. You can demonstrate emotional strength. You can show what peace looks like. And sometimes, that silent example changes lives in ways words never could. So the next time you feel tempted to carry someone's entire life on your shoulders, pause and ask yourself one question. Am I helping this person grow? Am I preventing their growth by protecting them from reality? The answer may change everything. As this video comes to an end, remember these Stoic truths. You cannot control other people. You cannot force transformation. You cannot save those unwilling to save themselves. But you can master your own mind. You can protect your peace. You can cultivate wisdom. You can live with courage, dignity, and self-respect. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. You stop chasing people. You stop fixing people. You stop carrying impossible burdens. And for the first time in years, you experience freedom. Real freedom. The freedom that comes from understanding where your responsibility ends and another person's begins. That is the Stoic way. If this message resonated with you, write "I choose peace" in the comments below. And if you want more powerful lessons on Stoicism, self-mastery, and emotional strength, make sure to subscribe and join this growing